Ever held a piece of American history so close you could almost hear the mintmaster's hammer strike? Today's spotlight shines on a coin that millions have jangled in their pockets without a second thought, but a handful of survivors from one specific year could be worth far more than face value. Let's unlock the mystery behind the 1965 US dime, exploring how a seemingly ordinary coin became a rare prize for seasoned collectors and anyone fortunate enough to discover one in top condition. The story begins in a year of change. In 1965, the United States was phasing out silver from its circulating coins, responding to rising bullion prices and a surge in demand for the precious metal. Dimes, quarters, and half dollars had just shed their 90% silver content the previous year, but the public still remembered the heft and sheen of those older coins. The new dimes rolled out with a copper-nickel clad composition, designed to look and feel much like their silver predecessors while costing the mint far less to produce. At first glance, a 1965 dime looks identical to every other Roosevelt dime struck between 1965 and today, but subtle variations in minting quality, die wear, and error rates created a handful of survivors that stand out in any serious collection. To spot a rare 1965 dime, you won't find dramatic double dies or off-center strikes like on some other collectible coins. Instead, collectors look for the very best examples of strike quality and surface preservation, dimes that escaped the wear of pocket circulation and emerged with sharp details on Franklin Roosevelt's portrait, crisp lettering on the rim, and fully mirrored fields around the design. In numismatic grading terms, these coins earn scores in the mint state, MS 65 to MS 67 range, grades that indicate virtually flawless surfaces and only the faintest contact marks. At MS 65, a 1965 dime might fetch $5 to $10, push that grade to MS 66 and you could be looking at $20 to $30. At MS 67, prices climb into the $50 to $75 territory, with unique specimens occasionally topping $100 when sold to the highest bidder. Auction records confirm the market's enthusiasm. In late 2023, a PCGS-graded MS 67 1965 dime with exceptional eye appeal sold for $120, well above its estimate, thanks to blazing luster and nearly invisible handling marks. A single MS 68 example, the highest grade recorded, crossed the block in early 2024 for $350, an astounding return on a coin that cost 10 cents at issuance. These headline-grabbing sales underscore how demand among advanced collectors for flawless modern coins remains strong, and how a coin from a mass-production era can still surprise with rarity when only a tiny fraction survive in top grade. Underneath Roosevelt's portrait, keen eyes search for what the mint calls full bands on the reverse, the horizontal bars across the torch's wreath. A sharply struck full bands dime reveals 6 distinct parallel lines on each side of the torch, a detail that washes away quickly under circulation wear. Finding those lines intact signifies minimal wear and a strong strike, attributes that drive a higher grade and premium price. Less technically minded collectors often describe these as deep bands or clear stripes, but the effect is the same. The more detail you see, the more valuable the coin. Beyond the technical grading, the 1965 dime carries interesting stories. During the Vietnam War buildup, small change circulated furiously, beans, bullets and dimes all moving through G's pockets in Southeast Asia. Many of the 1965 dimes sent overseas returned heavily worn, scuffed by sand and sweat. A survivor with intact luster likely spent its life in a bank vault, a dresser drawer or a coin album rather than a jungle pocket. Some collectors even specialize in war-worn coins, valuing the narrative of a coin that journeyed through conflict. Though those pieces command less at auction than pristine specimens, they hold powerful stories of everyday soldiers and the quiet persistence of currency under fire. Condition census data show only a handful of MS 67 1965 dimes among the tens of thousands graded, and just 2 or 3 MS 68 pieces certified by the top services. That tiny population fuels competition. Advanced collectors know that when a gem-quality 1965 dime appears at auction, bids can skyrocket in the final moments as rivals vie for a modern rarity. Dealers often advertise full bands, 1965 dimes in the $30 to $50 range, but once you step into the certified rare zone above MS66, private treaty prices can climb 2 or 3 times higher. If you're lucky enough to find a 1965 dime in pocket change, how can you tell if it might be one of these scarce high-grade survivors? First, examine the reverse under bright light and magnification. Do you see 6 crisp bands on either side of the torch? Next, look at Roosevelt's cheek and hair on the obverse. In lower-grade coins, those details blur quickly. In a true MS-67, every hair strand shows separation and Roosevelt's jawline remains sharp. Finally, check the fields for any marks or scratches. Even a tiny contact point can drop a coin from MS-67 to MS-66, shaving its value by half. If your candidate passes these tests, consider sending it to a reputable grading service. The certification alone can boost desirability and secure the best price when you decide to sell. Of course, most 1965 dimes you'll encounter won't qualify as rare full bands pieces. They'll be the everyday workhorses of commerce, with worn details and muted luster. In good or fine condition, they trade at face value or just a few cents above. But the thrill comes when you spot one that looks too crisp, too sharp, an anomaly among the millions. That's the moment you realize you might be holding a coin whose story stretches from the Philadelphia Mint's presses to a luxury collector's showcase, with stops along the way in bank vaults, pocket change hoards and grading service lockers. So before you roll those dimes or dump your loose change into the jar, give each 1965 piece a careful look. Under the right light and magnification, you could uncover a modern numismatic gem worth hundreds, not dimes. And if you do, you'll own a tangible slice of monetary history, a coin born in an era of transition, carrying on the legacy of Roosevelt's image and the mint's artistry long after its face value was spent. Shifting gears from a coin born in an era of metal shortages, let's fast forward 50 years to a dime that celebrates Roosevelt's legacy in a very different way, and which hides its own surprises for sharp-eyed collectors. The 2015 US dime marked a milestone in modern minting and design, and a few intriguing era varieties have turned otherwise common coins into sought-after treasures. The 2015 issue debuted as part of the Mint's ongoing Roosevelt dime series, but with a subtle twist, enhanced design details and a refreshed finish. That year, the Mint quietly adjusted the relief on Roosevelt's portrait, sharpening his hair strands and deepening the contours around the torch, olive branch, and oak sprig on the reverse. Most collectors barely noticed, until hobbyists realized these tweaks produced occasional weak strikes, filled devices, and even dye polishing lines that created ghost-like images on the fields. Those anomalies fall under the umbrella of mint errors, and while the Philadelphia and Denver mints each produced hundreds of millions of dimes in 2015, only a tiny fraction exhibit these quirks. When hunting a rare 2015 dime, start by inspecting the fields around Roosevelt's profile. A well-struck example shows smooth, mirror-like surfaces with crisp hair detail and bold lettering. But error coins might display hairlines across the field, remnants of dye polish, or faint doubling on the date and motto, a microdouble die. One documented variety shows a barely perceptible second, 2015, just below the primary date, visible only under 10 times magnification. Collectors label it the 2015 micro-DD, referencing a subtle secondary impression from a polished, slightly misaligned die. Because only a handful of dies produce this effect before being retired, certified micro-DD examples number less than 50 across all grading services. Value hinges on both the error type and the coin's overall grade. A standard brilliant uncirculated, BU, 2015 dime, MS-63 to MS-65, sells for face value up to about $1.50 among pocket change hunters. But snag a micro-DD in MS-65, and you could command $25 to $40. Push grade to MS-66, and auction prices climb into the $60 to $80 range. An MS-67 specimen might top $100 if it boasts strong eye appeal and minimal marks. In 2024, a PCGS 66 micro DD sold for $85, double its pre-sale estimate, driven by two bidders determined to own one of the scarcer modern era dimes. Beyond double dies, another collectible twist appears in the form of die cracks and cuds. On some 2015 Denver pieces, the reverse die developed a tiny crack through the letters E pluribus, creating a faint raised line on the coin's surface. These cracked die dimes trade in the $5 to $15 range in BU grades, but if you find one with a sizable cud, where a chunk of the die edge breaks away entirely, values can spike to $30 to $50. The most dramatic die break error recorded shows a crescent-shaped cud at the rim by the torch, giving the appearance of a miniature crescent moon, an apt motif on a coin that carries Roosevelt's steadfast gaze. Stories among 2015 date dimes often center on the packaging errors from mint sets. A limited number of Denver mint sets in 2015 included dimes struck on leftover 2014 dies, producing a 2014 D cameo in a 2015 product. Those mixed date errors slipped past quality control and landed in collector packs, making them popular finds on eBay and at regional shows. A verified 2014 D in an original mint plastic holder fetched $120 in 2023, simply because it represented a slip-up in the mint's own packaging process. Condition plays its usual role. A micro DD in circulation where, about VF 30, might only sell for $5 to $8, whereas the same error in pristine MS 66 could reach 10 times that value. Cracked die circulation strikes, ones showing both wear and the raised crack line, often trade for $3 to $6 among error enthusiasts, but uncirculated pieces with full detail can multiply that value. Always look for sharpness in Roosevelt's hair and torch bands, and inspect under magnification for any stray lines or raised metal that hint at an error. One lesser-known variety comes from die polishing that removed part of the mintmark on certain Philadelphia dimes. These ghost mintmark examples show a faint, almost invisible P near the rim, so subtle that many slip through as regular circulation pieces. Collectors prize these ghost mintmarks for their elusive nature. An MS 66 ghost mintmark dime recently sold for $45, despite minimal surface preservation compared to full-bands moderns. It's a reminder that sometimes the rarest traits aren't bold and obvious, but whisper quiet anomalies that reward patience and meticulous inspection. If you keep an album of modern dimes, set aside any 2015 pieces that look off, whether that means a double date, faint lines in the field, a raised crack, or an almost invisible mintmark. Even if the anomaly seems minor, snap a high-resolution photo and compare it to documented examples on specialist forums and reference sites. Error coin specialists often publish detailed pictorial guides online. Matching your find to a documented variety can turn a dime worth its face value into the centerpiece of your error collection. Whether you focus on the micro-doubling that whispers of a misaligned die, the dramatic flare of a die break cud, the quirky packaging slip that froze a 2014 die in a 2015 set, or the near-invisible ghost mintmark, the 2015 Roosevelt dime offers a modern playground for error hunters. It reminds us that even in an era of automated, high-speed minting, perfection remains elusive, and that occasional mistakes become tomorrow's prized rarities. Next time you sort your pocket change or crack open a mint set, give the 2015 dimes a careful once-over. Under magnification, you might catch a ghostly second date, the shimmer of a die crack, or the faint outline of a phantom mintmark, transforming an everyday coin into a conversation starter piece for your collection. And if you do, you'll hold not just a dime, but a small testament to the human and mechanical imperfections lurking behind every coin press.